Rob, I have a tale of iPhone woe.
Oh, is this for your 14 Pro or Pro Max?
Pro Max. Pro
probably
Max.
bought.
This is a story. This is breaking. This is Ruminate breaking news, Rob, because there's only like 2 other people in the whole world, on the whole planet, who know this story, which is I ordered my phone, and instead of coming to my new address in North Carolina, it was shipped to Illinois. Now, I thought this was my fault. It turns out I'm not so sure it was my fault. First of all, you order your phone and you move pretty quickly through that process because it can be hard to get through the checkout process. And it is possible, I will admit, it is possible that I skimmed over the address and didn't really pay attention and accidentally sent it to Illinois. However, when that happened, when I ordered that phone in early September, I had already been living here in North Carolina for like 2.5 months, so maybe 10 weeks. And I had gone through the process of changing my address in a million different places, including with, the address associated with my credit cards and my Apple IDs for things like Apple Pay.
Right. Yeah, of course.
Right. And I had ordered myself some AirPods Pro with a different Apple ID, and that's a whole nother conversation why that happened that way. But that one got to is being sent to the right address. As we record this, they aren't yet delivered. However, for some reason, the iPhone went to another address. Fortunately, I was able to get hold of one of my old neighbors, ask them to very kindly pick it up from the people who own our house now, and mail it to me. And so he FedExed it to me, which is great. And it's actually supposed to arrive later today as we speak. But that's getting ahead of myself because I realized this morning, I thought, well, this is the other thing that might have been the problem here is that I do the annual upgrade plan for the iPhone. So I don't really own it's like a loan. Basically, it is not like a loan. It is in fact a loan from the bank.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And you pay it off monthly. And at the end of the year, you can turn in your old phone for a credit to pay off the balance, basically, and then roll it over into a new phone, which the new monthly price is adjusted up or down depending on which model phone you pick. And it's quite possible that the failure here was a communication between Apple and this bank, because I think that technically these phones come from the bank, that they're in the distribution chain somehow as opposed to Apple. Maybe not. Maybe that's not true, but there's some sort of coordination there that may have broken down. So that's what might have happened. But my neighbor mailed it to me. It used FedEx, and it was supposed to arrive today. And it updated at 1 a.m. yesterday that it had moved from the town where I used to live to a nearby town. So it was moving through the FedEx system. But here we are. It's the day after that in the afternoon, my time. And it hadn't updated, even though it's supposed to deliver today. And I started having those thoughts like, oh, it arrived in this other town at 1 a.m. and some guy swiped it, right? And then I'm thinking, well, did I buy the lost and stolen Apple Care? Would that even apply if I haven't actually gotten the phone and activated it and shipped it myself? Had someone ship it to me as opposed to Apple. All these things started going through my head. And just as I was starting to fret about it, I got the update that it's maybe 50 or 60 miles away, which to me doesn't sound like it's coming today, but maybe it's
you never know. Maybe the FedEx guy is hurtling down the highway as we speak.
Well, that's the thing is I think I got sent ground as opposed to, I think my neighbor, which I don't blame him, sent it the more economical FedEx way than the one where they put it on the plane and it gets flown from Chicago to North Carolina. But
of course, yeah.
But yeah, so it's in the state at least. So I'm happy about that. That was my Apple tale of woe, and it ties into something, which is I think one of the biggest weak points in all of Apple software, which is the Apple ID, and the and not so much maybe the Apple ID as the iCloud account that's associated with it. Because one of my many problems, and it seems like it becomes a bigger problem all the time, is that way back in the day, there was a very good reason to have a separate Apple ID for iCloud from your store purchases. I don't even remember why that was, but that was very true back in the days of iTunes and the early, even before the iPhone, I think, back in the days of buying music from iTunes for your iPod. And that's no longer the case. However, if you bought a bunch of stuff back in those days, like I did, on that Apple ID, the last thing you want to do is give it all up. So I still have a split system where everything is on one Apple ID except for media and app purchases, right, which are on a separate email address.
Right.
And that in and of itself can be complicated at times because, Apple will ask you, log in with this, log in with that. And then you have to, it's like you're constantly swapping, figuring out which is the right password you need and all those things. But I think that iCloud is where a lot of the syncing stuff breaks down because of things like a lot of things are tied into your contacts, for instance.
Right, yeah.
Right, and the you get a corrupt contacts database, and all of a sudden it might be something small like your profile picture in Messages might look different to me than you intend. It might be one from 5 years ago, not the one you're using now, or it might be that something is not properly. It's not showing my correct home address because it's not updated somewhere in the system that my address is now North Carolina. And when I called, this all ties back into the story in that what I realized this morning was that new every year program for an iPhone requires you to send the old one back, and they send you empty cardboard box to put it in.
Yeah.
And they sent that to Illinois too. And of course it's sent separate. And
yeah,
so
of course it is.
Right. So I had to call. So I called Apple and I was like, I'm not gonna go to the expense of having my neighbor send me an empty cardboard box. So I called Apple and I said, please send me another one. And I asked if there was anything I could do to avoid this whole thing next time. And they said, the thing you need to do is call technical services because sometimes old addresses get stuck in your Apple ID account. I was like,
that sounds amazing.
I was like, great. That's encouraging because what I told them was I may be moving again soon because we're staying in a temporary place until we find a new one. And I thought, well, am I going to go through this all again once we, buy a new place and have a new address?
Yeah, I don't know what happens with addresses and Apple IDs and Apple Pay, but I noticed the other day I was ordering something with Apple Pay and it came up with my old address as a delivery address.
Yeah, because you've been at your new place for a long time.
Yeah, it's been like 9-10 months or something like that. And I was probably like you, very diligent about going through. I can even see it in my notes app as we're looking, and it's called address change.
Yep.
And it's a huge list of everywhere that I've updated. Obviously, all my credit cards and my bank cards are all updated. And so I was like, right, no, I really need to sort this because I think I'd seen it before. And for some reason on Apple Pay, the delivery addresses that might be associated with your card are all on each individual card.
Yeah.
So you have to go into each one, delete that old address, and obviously, my new one was in there. It just wasn't like the default option, but there doesn't seem to be any way to say, no, just like get rid of all of these. Like I do not want things turning up at my old house because unlike you, I don't have contact with the neighbours, so I would just lose that parcel, whatever it would happen to be.
Right. No, it's a kind of a mess. And I guess the other thing I had to, sometimes I find, you're asked by an OS to put in your iCloud password for no apparent reason whatsoever. Now, most of that I chalk up to the fact that I run a lot of betas. And I think sometimes the betas, one device to another, are a little out of sync, and maybe it gets confused and you have to log back in. So I cut Apple a little slack on that side of things. But I've had to repeatedly, this especially since I moved, I've had to sign into my Apple ID for media for my HomePod over and over again, and I don't know what's going on there. Part of it could be that I'm on the HomePod beta. I really regret ever being on the HomePod beta. That's Federico Vitici's fault. I'm going to tag him here.
Yeah.
Because it's not like you get a lot of benefit out of being on the beta for a HomePod most of the time. Once in a while, there's a new feature that's kind of cool. But for the most part, you're just playing with fire doing that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, speaking of, you mentioned like corrupt contacts and things.
Yeah.
I actually have a problem that has been ongoing for years involving you.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and I don't know. So obviously I have, we use iMessage to message each other and stuff like that. And I have your iMessage email address, and I also have your actual phone number as well. On my Mac, it will not recognize that I have you as a contact, so it just shows me your phone number in the messages list.
Huh.
The other day I was out and we were messaging, and Siri was saying, "Oh, a new message from," and it would read me your phone number.
Yeah, that's great.
Right. And I've tried every combination of this. I've tried like deleting your phone number and just leaving the email. I've tried it the other way around. Nothing I do will make the rest of the system, like my Mac and my phone and stuff like that, recognize that I have you as a contact, like everywhere.
That's interesting. That's interesting. I do default to sending from my phone number only because that tends to avoid problems with dealing with things like SMS. And,
absolutely.
And there are some other things, but that shouldn't be. I'm sure there are plenty of people who default to that, who you contact all the time too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's not, I thought, maybe it's an American thing, but then I'm like, no, I have other, I have other American friends that I use iMessage with,
Sure.
and this isn't a problem with them. And it's like, it's the same configuration. I have their phone number, I have their email address. But for whatever reason, Siri decided it wanted to just read me your phone number every time you sent me a message.
Yeah, I have this thing with, this is a really bizarre one too. Federico uses a Memoji when he texts me, and his profile picture has the Italian flag in the background, except for on my Mac, where the background is pale pink. And it's pink,
right.
And my wife's is pink, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, did it adopt the background from hers somehow? But no, it's a little bit darker pink than hers, and I'm not sure why he's pink in one, and I think they're just different ones he used at different times, and for whatever reason, it won't update on one platform versus the other. I think the Italian flag one is the right one, but there's no way to know. No, and there's no real way to fix it. You just have to kind of deal with it, like. For you, there's a picture, on the contact because you shared that on iMessage. For my mum, no, nothing. It will not show a picture on the Mac, but it will on my phone. So weird.
What can I do about that? Nothing. Like, I just have to deal with it. And I'm like, okay, I guess this is just how it is. But it's been like this for years.
Yeah. And I really do think...
I've just given up trying to fix anything at this point.
I really do think it comes down to contacts. And I've done all the little tricks you can do to clean out your contacts, whether, exporting your contacts, deleting the database on the Mac, logging out. The only way to really clean this stuff out is to log out of everything, log out of iCloud everywhere. And then I export the contacts, delete the database off your Mac, re-import it as a new library, get it all back in there, and then one by one turn on your devices with iCloud and wait for them to sync. And that takes a long time to do if you've got a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah. And if you start signing out, and to what you were saying, you are going to be putting your password in for the next 2 weeks. Like everywhere.
That's the thing, is it has all these knock-on effects where it's like, well, yeah, all I want to do is fix contacts, but now the App Store is going to be bothering me, and and Apple Music, and there's all these other things that are going to get screwed up somehow because I turned off iCloud on all my devices for half a day or something.
Yeah. It's just one of those things that I just can't. Like the fact that I cannot search for Dropbox on my phone. It won't show up. This has been ongoing for probably 6 years, 7 years.
Oh,
I've tried transferring to new phones. I've done that sometimes. Sometimes I've set the phone up as fresh. Doesn't matter what I do, Dropbox never shows up in search. I have to go to the list to find it.
That's so weird.
And it's only that app as well. Every other app I have on my phone is absolutely fine. Dropbox, I've tried deleting it, reinstalled it. I've tried, sign out, sign back in. I've toggled, Siri indexing or whatever it is, where it shows you your files, that kind of stuff.
Right.
None of that helps. So I just know now that if I need Dropbox, I have to go to the app library to find it.
Oh, man, that's terrible. Oh.
And it makes me so angry.
Oh, well, yeah, it's an app that you need. Wow.
Right, exactly.
All right. Well, Rob, we need to stop complaining. You have some good news for me. I hope it's good news. You're going to tell me about the Beats Studio Buds, right?
Yeah. So my AirPods Pros, which I've had, I don't know, a couple of years, something like that. I don't know how long they've been out, but I've had them a fair while.
Yeah.
They've started getting rattly. The battery's not very good. A lot of disconnecting. The buttons aren't working very well. So I thought, okay, the new ones are coming out. I'll get those. And then I saw the price because I'd kind of forgotten how much I'd paid for them.
Yeah, they are kind of pricey.
Whatever they are, $250 or something like that. And of course, that's basically a 1-to-1 ratio when you get into pounds.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always fun. And I thought, like, there must be some alternative that is like, not necessarily as good, but like close enough for the things I want, because I don't use like spatial audio and all that kind of stuff. I mostly just want reasonable noise cancelling and like, wireless earbuds.
Mm-hmm.
And I started looking around and I was like, oh, Beats Studio Buds, these are like, I can get these for like £100. Like, I think retail on them is about $160. But because they're Beats, they go on sale all the time, unlike Apple's things. And I watched a few reviews, like I think MKBHD did a review, and I watched a few others, and I thought, yeah, these would probably do. So I ordered them, I think from Amazon, because they had like the cheapest price, and I got the black ones. The sound to my ear is just as good as the AirPods Pro. The noise cancelling is good. They actually fit better in my ear, so I get a nicer seal on them compared to the AirPods Pro. And they're sort of like nearly a third of the price, so I'm really happy. Like, the battery life's fine. Having the button on the side instead of on a stem has taken some getting used to, but I've kind of got there now. I've been using them for like a week or so. So yeah, to be honest, it's kind of my recommendation at this point. I don't feel like I'd necessarily recommend AirPods Pros unless there's something very specific in those that you want.
Yeah, no, these look really good. I've always wondered about them because I don't think until you got them, I don't think I know anyone who has actually purchased them. So that's kind of nice. They have that nice little bit on the stem that kind of looks like it makes it pretty easy to get them in and out too.
Mm-hmm.
It's like handle
they're
almost.
Right, exactly. And you kind of get, obviously, if you've used AirPods or AirPods Pros for a while, you get used to how they go in the case. But after like a week or so with these, I'm like, I've got the hang of it now.
Yeah.
The magnet's way stronger in the case. Huh. So like when you drop stuff in, if you turn that upside down, they are not falling out. They have really, really strong magnets. The only thing that I do miss is they don't do the pausing thing when you take them out your ear. But because where the button is on the side, which is like the play pause button, I kind of don't miss it that much, because if I'm doing that, I can just sort of press it as I take it out of my ear anyway.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I have my whole experience with Beats has been the Power Beats Pro wireless headphones, which are the ones that hook over your ears, and I do use those for running. I like them better. I like the Apple ones really aren't rated for getting them very wet, and if you are in a hot environment like I am now, it's not such a great idea to be sweating on them a lot. So I've got the Power Beats, and I just use those for when I'm exercising, and it's perfect. They've lasted forever because I just I don't exercise enough, so they may never break, which is fine with me because I don't need a whole bunch more headphones. I got enough headphones in my life as it is. Well, that's cool. I'm glad that they're working out for you. I mean, I've got the new AirPods Pro coming in on Friday, I guess. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the difference is. I've actually been using mine a lot more since I moved here because I do a lot of my errands on foot now. It's a lot more walkable here than it was where we used to live. And so I'm always popping in my AirPods Pro and, running off to the grocery store or I don't know, somewhere to pick something up in the drugstore or something like that. And they're perfect definitely for that,
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's kind of what I like about them. I can just sort of grab them, chuck them in my pocket. I can chuck one in if I'm like doing stuff around the house and I still need to hear if if Jess shouts or, needs me for something. The Buds specifically are very strange. They came out about a year ago, apparently. And I feel like I didn't even know they existed.
They didn't get. I don't think they got much attention. Maybe it was busy. Maybe it was a busy time for other tech news or something.
Yeah, and then because I was looking at a bunch of reviews, and I'm like, all these reviews are saying that it doesn't support spatial audio and the iCloud switching and stuff, and I'm like, oh, that's odd because the Amazon page says it does, and it turns out about 3 months in, Apple updated them so that they supported those things. So actually, a lot of the original reviews aren't necessarily accurate to what you get now,
right?
So they do the sort of auto switching stuff when you're on different devices, and they stay in iCloud and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, and then they added like a bunch of colors in sort of the last 6 months or something. All the other colors were really expensive, so I just went for black because I wasn't going to spend more money just to get like the red ones or the blue or whatever. But yeah, I mean, they're definitely a really good alternative if you don't necessarily want to spend the money that the AirPods Pros are.
Then there's a good argument for why you shouldn't spend a ton of money on these kind of things if you're like me and you have a bad habit of putting them through the laundry, which I have.
Yeah, there is that.
I've done that a couple of times, and I'll tell you, there's nothing sadder than the cry of a pair of AirPods as they come out of the case and try to connect to your phone, which is in the same general area, but they're not in your ears. But they're crying out in pain as they drown in laundry detergent. And yes, I have heard from people who have said, "Oh, well, mine worked fine after I put them through the laundry." Well, mine have not. Have they worked? Yeah, kind of. I mean, I can put them in my ears and I can hear some semblance of music and hissing and popping, but no, the batteries were ruined too.
Yeah, I bet. And, I mean, speaking of batteries, that's another reason I don't want to spend a huge amount, because it's like, 2, maybe 3 years on these sort of tiny little things, and the batteries are completely shot. It depends on how much you use them.
No, they do. As a couple of years, I think, is about all you can really reasonably expect if you use them fairly frequently.
Yeah, definitely. Well, speaking of things I am going to spend my money on, and I cannot believe I'm saying this, I am going to be buying FIFA 23 because they've announced that you can play as Ted Lasso and AFC Richmond and all of the players from the TV show.
Yeah, and I watched the little clip before we started, and they did a really nice job with the likenesses of the actors that play those different players. I mean, it's really kind of cool. And when is it out? September 30th? Is that what they said?
Yeah, so it's a week today. It's out pretty much, I think. Yeah, so it's 21st. So it's a little bit, I guess, end of next week or something, yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
I won't be buying it at retail price because it's really expensive, because it's FIFA. But I will definitely be picking this up because, I don't really care about football games, but obviously I want to, see Ted Lasso and play as AFC Richmond and just. Well,
the FIFA games are supposed to be pretty. I mean, it may not be your thing, but I think the FIFA games are supposed to be quite good. It's not really my thing either.
No, I mean, I'm going to wait and, see how much effort they've put into this, Ted Lasso thing, and is it DLC? Do I need to do something? Like, I don't know how a FIFA game works at this point. Right. I mean, the last one I bought was, I think it was 1996.
Okay.
Or possibly not. No, it was 1998. Road to World Cup 1998 on the Nintendo 64. So,
oh wow.
I'm guessing the games have got a little bit better since then.
I hope so. I hope so. a little more photorealistic, a little bit more with the gameplay. Yeah, no, that's really cool. I think it's kind of a neat thing that they're doing. I mean, I think it'll definitely that's why they're doing it, right? I mean, it's maybe going to draw some people in who might not otherwise have thought to buy the game.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this is the last game that will be called FIFA. I think from next year it's called like EA Sports or something, or Sports Summit Sports. I don't know. I don't pay enough attention, but it's definitely going to be called something different from next year. So,
I do remember.
Yeah, this is a pretty good way to grab people in.
Well, that's good. Yeah, I remember when they announced the name change. I have a recommendation for you. I'm not going to talk too much about it because I've only played a little bit, but Rollerdrome is really good, Rob.
Oh, yes, I've heard about this.
This is the roller skating game where it's a shooting roller skating game, which is really strange. I mean, it's set in the future. You're in an arena it's done by Roll7, which they did skateboarding games, like Ollie Ollie. And you can tell that this was done by people who had done skateboarding games because there's all sorts of tricks and grabs and flicks and, it's very complicated. The controls are very involved, but it's incredibly fun. If you can start getting the hang of the controls, it can be just completely mesmerizing because you're doing all these like half-pipe tricks and things, trying to avoid snipers and shooting enemies, and you just go from level to level doing that. And I've only done a couple of levels, so I haven't played much, but I'm playing on the Steam Deck.
Ooh.
Which I got on Saturday, so it finally arrived. Yeah, it's the Steam Deck is both bigger than I expected, and especially wider, and it is also, I wouldn't say it's lighter, but it is more balanced than I expected. Like, it is not uncomfortable to hold, and I really expected it might be. But especially if you're mostly staying in the world of the Steam store, it's very easy to use, and it's been pretty good experience so far. But the battery, boy, just drains down. I played Cyberpunk first, and that just crushed the battery. Just absolutely.
No, I'm not surprised.
Just absolutely crushed the battery. Rollerdrome, a lot easier. Cult of the Lamb, a lot easier on the battery. I mean, it really depends on the game.
Yeah, definitely. It's well, no, I'm glad. That's a pretty good recommendation. I've seen a few people mention that, so I will have a look into that.
It's on the PlayStation too, so you can play it there if you want to. I don't know if I don't think it's on Xbox.
Yeah, I don't think it is. I think it is just PC and PS4 and PS5. I think so.
Right.
That's great. Well, I will. In fact, I might go and have a look at that in a bit.
It's also not like FIFA level of expensive. I think it was $25 on Steam.
Right. Okay. So a little bit cheaper than what FIFA is. Brand new. Cool. All right then. Well, I think that'll do us for this week. I think.
Yeah, I think so too. Good to talk to you.
Yeah, and you. Speak to you soon.